All right, Raider Nation. So the season is over, and it looks like Antonio Pierce may also be over. Last night, Antonio Pierce had a very long conversation with Mark Davis. We don't know the results of that yet today, but we are expecting some type of news to be coming out either today or tomorrow. It is reported that Mike Vrabel will be in town to meet with Mark Davis, and to me that just shows that Antonio Pierce may be a one-and-done type of a head coach. And what he had to say in his presser after last night's loss to the Los Angeles Chargers pretty much tells all, because when you are saying things like no comment in regards to a question of do you think you deserve to be here for another year, that just goes to show that he knows that he's on the hot seat. If he knew that his job was secure, he would be like, listen, me and Mark Davis have talked. We have a very good understanding, and yes, I will be back next year. But the fact that he is just saying no comment means to me that Antonio Pierce is on the hot seat. But he's not the only one on the hot seat, because Antonio Pierce in his presser last night, and a lot of people have missed this, but if you were paying attention to what he had to say, he literally threw Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew and Desmond Ridder and pretty much every quarterback that's ever been on this team under his tenure as head coach under the bus when he made the statement of...
But how far do you think you guys are away from being one of those teams now?
Yeah, I think everybody sees the glaring need, what you need.
So as you can see in that statement, no, he did not clearly just say Aiden O'Connell is the problem, Gardner Minshew is the problem, Desmond Ridder is the problem. What he said is, we have a glaring need at a position that everybody can see. What position would that be? Is he talking about the cornerback? Is he talking about Jack Jones? No. Jack Jones doesn't have that big of a role as to changing things and making us a playoff or a championship team. Is it Max Crosby? No. Is it defensive line, offensive line? No. What position could he possibly be talking about? The position that he himself was very adamant that he would like to see an improvement in last year in regards to a Jaden Daniels. It's the quarterback position. And I got to agree with him in the regard that, listen, we wouldn't be a 4-13 team had he been smart enough not to start Gardner Minshew. If he had started Aiden O'Connell from the beginning of the season, we probably win 7 or 8 games. Now, that means that we're probably still not going to get a quarterback either. But I understand what he's doing right now is he is casting blame on the player personnel that he has to work with, in particular, the quarterback situation with Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder. We simply don't have a star quarterback. That's obvious. And I think that Aiden O'Connell, had he been given the chance from the very beginning of the season, he probably would have made enough progression to where we probably would have won 7 or 8 games, as I said. But that's not what happened. And so we will never know, because more than likely, Aiden O'Connell is not going to be the starter next year. It is quite likely that the Raiders will still end up with Shedeur Sanders at pick number 6. I hope that the Raiders trade up and can garner Cam Ward in some kind of way, because I think Cam Ward is the better quarterback overall, and I think Cam Ward will have a better career in the NFL versus Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders throws off his back foot way too often. He holds onto the ball way too often. And so I wonder about Shedeur Sanders being an NFL-level quarterback when he couldn't even put up good numbers against a team like BYU in a bowl game. And for me, that's very concerning if the Raiders spend that 6th overall draft pick on Shedeur Sanders. If we don't get Shedeur Sanders, if we do not end up with Cam Ward, then the Raiders need to go out and they need to sign Justin Fields. I said this last year, the Raiders should have went out and got Russell Wilson. We didn't do it. It would have been the biggest slap in the face to Denver to make them pay his salary for us to beat Denver. By the way, the Raiders went 0-6 for the first time since Art Shell was the head coach, and Art Shell got fired that very same year when we went 0-6 in the AFC West. Therefore, I'm not confident that AP is going to maintain his job. According to insider sources, if that game went well yesterday, AP had a chance to keep his job. If that game yesterday went bad, he was most likely gone. And it's really going to depend now because there's a monkey wrench in the whole situation, and that being the Patriots just fired their head coach, which means the Patriots have a head coaching opening. And Mike Vrabel has always wanted to coach the Patriots. So will Mike Vrabel go to the Patriots, or will Tom Brady convince him to come here? And as I talked about it on my live stream last night, I'm not convinced that Mike Vrabel is a huge upgrade over Antonio Pierce, being the fact that he doesn't play calls either. He's not an offensive-minded coach, but he is a winning coach. He had 3 very successful seasons with Tennessee, and he had a couple of bad ones as well. He made it to the playoffs. As a matter of fact, he made it to the conference championship. He was also named Coach of the Year in 2021, I think, or 2022. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments. But he has that coaching experience, and he has a winning record as a head coach as well. His last 2 years as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans went downhill. There were player personnel issues, GM not drafting who he wanted, bucking heads with the ownership, and that's why he ended up being out of a job. But when I say that he is not a whole lot better than Antonio Pierce, is in the fact that you still got to go get your offensive coordinator. You still have to have a defensive coordinator because he's not going to run either side of the ball. That's not what he typically does. He is better at making game time decisions, and he is better at player personnel decisions. And I think overall, organizationally wise, he'll have a better system than Antonio Pierce, who, by his own words, is learning on the job. We cannot afford to have a coach learning on the job for any longer. The fact is, he's the one who put Gardner Minshew in. Whether he was pressured or not, the blame still falls on him, and I feel bad for him. I wish this season would have went a lot better. I know that Antonio Pierce did not have a cast full of superstars. I know that the superstars that we have all got injured. Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Devontae Adams traded. All of our superstars were not playing for this team this year. We had a bunch of young backup players in there as starters, and that made it really difficult for any head coach in the NFL to have success. But I think at the end of the day, you still got to look at Antonio Pierce and say, dude, you're not ready to be a head coach.